Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Society of Germantown for our joint service with UU Mount Airy to explore the topic of justice in the Middle East. My name is Andrea Barsovic, and my pronouns are she and her. We are Unitarian Universalist congregations united in a common purpose to make love real in our lives and in the world. We are diverse in our beliefs, atheist and agnostic, believers and seekers, and we welcome you here no matter your race, class, gender identity, sexual orientation, your family structure, your job, or your health. Here, we know that no matter our differences, we are connected by the interdependent web of life. Visitors, you are welcome here. Whether this is your first, 5th, or 15th visit, we invite you to introduce yourself to someone at the welcome table over here, and they would be happy to answer any questions you have about this congregation or Unitarian Universalism. Please complete a visitor card and join us for fellowship and coffee and some Middle Eastern treats following the service. It will be in the Edna Jones room, up one flight of stairs, and also outside. Just follow the crowd. As we work to widen access to our community, please note that there are large print hymnals and large print orders of service available at the front of the sanctuary. And listening devices can be picked up from the sound desk over there. We have an elevator for those who need assistance going up and down. Just ask where to find it. It's a little hidden. Gender-neutral restrooms can be found at the bottom of the stairs at the back of the sanctuary, and gendered restrooms are through this door and down the hall. Use whichever feels right to you. And lastly, longtime members, if you thought none of this applies to you, as our community grows, wear your name tags. It allows us to greet one another warmly and genuinely. Our service this morning was created in collaboration with people from UU Mount Airy, and we have a guest speaker. So I have several introductions to make. Kathy McCabe, who's right up here in the front, my co-worship associate, is the current moderator of Unitarian Universalists of Mount Airy, where she has found a home in a diverse religious community. She brings her early history in a Unitarian fellowship, her background as a dance movement therapist and a school psychologist, and her love of Philly to this role. Kathy is committed to the well-being and collective learning and growth of the UUs of Mount Airy toward beloved community and reparative justice. Our offertory music this morning is being performed by Zurius Merkus Balan on the bazouk, a traditional Middle Eastern instrument. Zurius is a composer, performer, researcher, and musical director with a doctorate in music composition and music technology. While his artistic expression is rooted in his Palestinian identity, Zurius thrives on collaborative work across cultures and disciplines, especially dance. Our speaker this morning is India Wood, a student at Union Theological Seminary who aspires to be a Unitarian Universalist minister. She is currently in her 3rd year of seminary, and she is also pursuing a master's in social work at Hunter College's Silberman School. She was raised culturally Jewish in a mixed-faith household outside Boston, and attended the Unitarian Society in Winchester, Massachusetts from a young age. India was formerly the youth group ministry coordinator at the UU area church in First Parish in Sherburne, Mass., and at First Parish in Wayland, Mass. For the past year, India also served as the national organizer for Unitarian Universalist for Justice in the Middle East. We have one announcement this morning. All are invited to attend the dedication of a memorial plaque for Louis Bonanno after today's service at 12:30 in the USG Memorial Garden. Louis, son of Kathy and David Bonanno, grew up in our church and died in 2022. The memorial plaque now joins those of his sister Lady and both parents. Come for a remembrance of Louis and his beautiful family, with music provided by his uncle, Joe Borelli, Joe and Louis's aunt, Suzanne. Joe and Louis's aunt, Suzanne Sheeter, are grateful to the members of this congregation who contributed to Louis's memorial plaque. And now, as we deepen into worship, I ask that you silence your cell phones and allow yourself to be present for this hour. But please, don't silence your children. Their sound.
Thank you. Good morning, friends. Good morning, salam alaikum, and boker tov to those who speak in those languages. We welcome you into this space here. I'm Reverend McKinley Sims. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a Unitarian Universalist minister, not here at this congregation currently professionally, but this is part of my spiritual home here at the Unitarian Society of Germantown. This is where I came to Unitarian Universalism and where I was ordained as a minister, and I'm so glad to be helping to lead this joint service along with all the folks who helped put together this wonderful weekend. If you didn't know, this is not the only thing that has happened this weekend that has been about peace and justice and liberation for all people. We held a Friday night movie screening of the movie Where Olive Trees Weep, or When Olive Trees Weep, a beautiful documentary that I encourage you to check out if you have not seen it. We had a powerful discussion afterwards, and then a community panel here in the Sullivan Chapel yesterday, bringing together folks from all sides of the spectrum of the conflict and ongoing genocide in Palestine and Israel. It's been an incredibly powerful weekend, and it has felt so meaningful to see people who come from different places, who speak different languages, who pray in different ways, who come together under one roof to talk to one another, to build bridges and build relationships in the name of peace, justice, and liberation. If you've never been in this building before, this was formerly a Baptist church, but over here on the side of the sanctuary are some stained glass windows. Oh, I'm getting a no from people. Then I won't tell you this story anymore. But I will tell you a story about a different sanctuary that has a set of stained glass windows from a different Unitarian church that were grafted onto the building that was lost in a fire. And that building is a symbol of what it is like to take different things and build them together to create a place of love, to create a place of peace, and to create a place of justice. That's what this weekend has been about. And that's what we invite you into this worship today. No matter what your beliefs are, no matter where you've stood on any side of this issue, whether you're here for the first time just learning about the struggle for liberation in Palestine, or you've been there, perhaps you've lived there, perhaps you're from there, we invite you into this space to build bridges, to build relationships, and to lay a foundation for peace, justice, and liberation. In our congregations, we often start with taking a breath. I'm going to invite you to put your hand on your heart and to feel your heart beating inside of your chest. This ancient rhythm reminds us that we are alive, and that while we are alive, there is hope for a different future. Just as hearts beat across the Holy Land. So they beat here. May they beat more in unison by the end of today, so that we might build a foundation of difference and beauty rather than sameness and fear. May it be so. Amen. Come, let us worship together.
Our chalice this morning will be lit by Hunter Jordan. Please join me in the unison words by Naomi Shihab Nye that are printed in your order of service. When your hope shrinks, you might feel the hope of someone far away lifting you up. Hope is the thing. Hope was always the theme. It's not doing it, huh? Oh, well. We'll leave it with the small one. Thank you. Please rise in body or spirit for our first hymn, Hashivenu. And I believe the music director from...
Nope, it's me.
Oh, it's you. Okay,
this one's
fine.
me.
Thank you.
Good morning, friends. My name is Stearns Matthews. I am the music director here. My pronouns are he, him, and we're going to learn some new words today that you might not know. Maybe you do know them, and if you do, that's wonderful. Repeat after me. Hashivenu. Hashivenu. Adonai Eleka. Veneshuva, Veneshuva. Hadesh, Hadesh. Yamenu kekedem. Don't worry, there's not going to be a quiz. Nobody's listening to you specifically. If you don't get them all right, totally fine.
Excuse me, the hymn number is 216.
Thank you.
It's wrong in the order of service.
Repeat after me, 216. Repeat after me. Hashivenu, Hashivenu. Your turn. Ready? Here we go. My turn. Adonai Elecha. Your turn. Adonai Elecha. Beautiful. Venashuva. Your turn. Venashuva. My turn. Venashuva. Your turn. Venashuva. Kadesh, Kadesh. Your turn. Kadesh, Kadesh. Yamene kekudem. Yamenu kedem. I completely butchered that last phrase, but I know you're all going to get it right when we get back to it. Here we go, from the top. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Venashuva, Venashuva. Hadesh, Hadesh, Yamenu kekedem. One more time. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai You sound exquisite. Please be seated.
Each Sunday, the worship associate presents a personal statement related to some aspect of the service. This is my testimonial. Over 10 years ago, my husband and I went to Israel for business and to tour the country with friends. I had never been there, so I didn't know what to expect. In many ways, I remember it as a magical experience. I remember learning about the ancient Roman presence in Caesarea, north of Tel Aviv, and seeing the remnants of a large racetrack where they held chariot races. I floated in the Dead Sea, ever vigilant not to drink or put my head in the water because the excessive salinity is toxic. We visited a kibbutz, my husband rode a camel, and we spent time in Jerusalem. We visited the Wailing Wall, the location of the Last Supper, searched out the very best hummus, and I swam in the Jerusalem YMCA swimming pool using my Roxborough Y card to get in. That's true. There were a few things that made me uneasy. It was disconcerting to see young people in public with machine guns slung over their shoulders as they were doing their compulsory military service. One of my concerns was the possibility of random suicide bombings. One did occur in Jerusalem, but not during our time there. In Bethlehem, in the West Bank, we had to show passports and go through border control to get into and out of the town. When we crossed over, we were met by a Palestinian guide who told us about the restrictions placed on Palestinians. Though he met all the criteria for entry into Israel, he was over 35 years old, married, had children, and spoke Hebrew, he was not allowed to cross into Israel. This severely limited his business as a tour guide. I also remember a few derogatory remarks by our tour guide about Palestinians, about their laziness, dirtiness, and lack of education. As I think back on that trip, I no longer think of it as magical. When I was there, I chose not to see the signs of conflict and repression. I did not focus on the plight of Palestinians trapped in the West Bank without the rights of citizenship. I normalized it, giving Israel the benefit of the doubt. After all, it is a foreign country with its own culture. Who was I to judge? Now, I see repression on the rise in the U.S. The detainment, persecution, and deportation of immigrants. The repression of free speech in universities. Purging of government officials and employees for telling their truth rather than following the party line. And the blatant lies told by our elected officials. I realize now that it is important to not hide from what is going on politically here in our own country or other countries. We are all interconnected. We need to face up to what is going on: apartheid, racism, genocide, starvation. And on that cheery note, I will, introduce the offertory. Every Sunday, when we take up the collection, we share it with a worthy organization. Our Share the Plate recipient today is the Bayadir Youth Team. The Bayadir Team is a group of young adults in Gaza who provide charitable assistance to the people in Gaza and Palestine. Their work includes distribution of clean drinking water, provision of supplies, food, and cash, and engaging children in recreational activities. All team members are well-educated people who live and work with the people they serve. So we ask you to give generously, as we have found that the more we give away, the more comes our way. To give in cash or check, just drop it in the plate as the ushers pass by. To give by text, please follow the instructions on the back cover of your order of service.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me here. It's also worth going to Palestine and see the churches there. And oh, we have a microphone here. I'm saying thank you for having me. I always wanted to play in church, and because I always think, even if you're religious or not, playing in church can give the music and the musicians different meaning. And it's worth to travel there. Even in the most dangerous times, you're going to be okay. It's worth to see the churches there. Not because of its beauty, but because of also the impossible reality. Worshippers also having trouble to enter churches there lately. So the church there is becoming much more than a religious symbol. And again, thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Jurius. My name is Kathy McCoubry. I'm with Unitarian Universalists of Mount Airy. We have a responsive reading in your order of service. Please join me in reading a poem by Mahmoud Darwish, who was a Palestinian national poet. It's called Think of Others. As you prepare your breakfast, think of others. As you conduct your wars, think of others. As you pay your water bill, think of others. As you return home to your home, think of others. As you sleep and count the stars, think of others. As you liberate yourself in metaphor, think of others. As you think of others far away, think of yourself. Say, if only I were a candle in the dark.
At this time, we invite you to contribute your joys and sorrows to the bowls of water in the front of the sanctuary. Choose a smooth stone or a pebble and place it in the water to absorb your pain or ripple out with your joy. And Jurius will play as we process. India Wood will place a pebble for all the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken, and she will place a smooth stone and a pebble into the water on behalf of those joining us online. Please remain seated and join in singing hymn number 123 in the hardback hymnal, Spirit of Life, after which we will share a moment of silence. The reading this morning is Kaddish for Our Souls by Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. We still feel the blow to our head. Huge chunks are falling from the heavens, but we have yet to grasp the rupture and the misfortune that has befallen us. We are still waiting for the funeral, not yet ready to sit Shiva. Distraught, broken, confused, and petrified, we are living in a state of chaos. We celebrate our joyous occasions, but it's akin to holding a wedding at a cemetery. Our enjoyments are awkward and even grotesque, mere this-worldly pleasures. Our people are consumed by fire, and the world is unchanged. The ash of human skeletons emits no odor. The atmosphere of the world is not contaminated. Our bread is fresh, our sugar is sweet. The screams of millions of victims of the crematoria were never transmitted over the radio waves. Hush, quiet, nothing ever happened. If we still had a heart, then it has turned to stone. I often sit and wonder, perhaps our souls went up in flames along with their bodies in Majdanek and Auschwitz. Ours is a godless world. We Jews dance around the golden calf. We have forgotten that we live in a world that is treif. The times are dark, yet we do not even light the Sabbath candles. 6 million Jews went up in smoke. Blood will not remain silent, but our conscience is mute as a wall. We are inebriated and distracted by the follies of this world. The martyrs do not need our recitations of Kaddish, but we need someone to recite Kaddish over us, for us, because we have lost our soul.
Good morning. Good morning. Something that you should know about me is that I'm not afraid to cry in public. I wouldn't say that I'm a public crying enthusiast. I try to keep it tasteful. But on an unseasonably warm day in October of 2023, I was walking home from my first semester of seminary at Boston University, and I was crying, more than just a tear or two. After another day in which none of my professors mentioned Hamas's October 7th attacks in Israel, nor the erupting and ongoing Israeli assault in Gaza and retaliation, I was at a loss for what to do. I was grieving, angry, about the loss of Jewish life and hostages who were taken, and about what I knew even then would become one of the bloodiest conflicts in history as 2,000-pound bombs dropped and white phosphorus rained down on Gaza's civilians and a genocide began. On that day, walking home from school, my grief overflowed. I picked up my phone and did what I often do when I'm at a loss. I called my mom. "They will kill them all," I wept into the phone. "And they're doing it in our names as Jews. They were doing it with our tax dollars. Israel will kill them all, and the world will never forgive us." I was afraid. I was afraid for the lives of Palestinians who deserve safety and self-determination. And honestly, I was afraid for myself. Afraid that Jewish people would be unjustly targeted, that violence would befall us here in the US when people see Jews as stand-ins for the state of Israel's actions, just like what happened to Muslims and Sikhs after 9/11 or East Asian people during the COVID pandemic. I was afraid of anti-Semitism, but I knew even then that solidarity with Palestinians was the only path forward for a just and lasting peace. Fear ruled my thoughts that day, and my mother did her best to buoy me. What I later learned was that she was fielding a few fear-filled conversations that week. My cousin had also called her in tears. Like me, he was afraid of anti-Semitism, but from there, our concerns diverged. He called because I had posted a video of myself at a Palestinian solidarity rally. "She's posting pictures of the Hamas flag. She's putting Jews in danger," he told her. The flag he was making reference to was not the Hamas flag, but rather the red, green, and black of the Palestinian flag, a distinction he did not understand. Today, anti-Semitism seems to be on the tip of everyone's tongue. Just days before I began writing this sermon a few months ago, a man in Colorado threw a firebomb at a crowd of Jewish people. My heart breaks for every life lost and person maimed. At its best, this attack and others like it are fundamentally misguided attempts to draw more attention to the ongoing slaughter in Gaza and violence in the West Bank, and they do nothing to materially support Palestinians or a just peace. At its worst, it was a disgusting act of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is alive and well, like racism, sexism, transphobia, and others of its ilk. It's a persistent, fear-based disease that will not go down without a fight. We knew anti-Semitism was on the rise well before the recent uptick in violence toward Jewish Americans, from the horrifying shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in 2017, to the countless times Trump has relied on anti-Semitic tropes. There are so many of these, in fact, that the topic has a Wikipedia page. Even in UU spaces, I have experienced very real anti-Semitism. As the organizer for UUs for Justice in the Middle East, I received multiple Holocaust denial emails from a chapter member. Fear is good at making enemies. When people are concerned for their safety, they look for other people to blame. Afraid for his safety, my cousin blamed me and the thousands of other American Jews speaking out about Palestinian liberation and criticizing Israel. He sees our voices as threats to him, to his family, to his people's well-being. My cousin and I were not very close before October of 2023, but I fear my activism since then has made enemies out of us, a wound I am not sure how to tend to. Susanna Heschel, professor and daughter of activist and Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, writes, "Insularity of Jews from the wider society concerns only with what directly affects Jews in rejection of involvement in the need of fellow citizens. That is truly exile. Fear estranges people, makes us victims of our own victimhood, makes us cling to what we know. Fear is a form of exile, a concept Jews are very familiar with. For as much as it is effective at isolating us, fear is also good at making friends. Fast, frivolous friends, that is. During this moment of heightened concern about anti-Semitism, many Jewish institutions are turning their back on progress and solidarity, like the Anti-Defamation League, who were once known for their critical role during the civil rights movement in solidarity with Black Americans. Now the ADL courts unconventional allies. They congratulated Trump on his 2024 election win and came to the quick defense of Elon Musk when he blatantly performed a Nazi salute. Instead of rallying around trans people who the ADL professes to support, they have sided with an administration hell-bent on denying the existence of anything beyond two biological sexes. Fear attracts strange bedfellows because fearful people often befriend others who fear, seeking protection no matter the cost. Another frequent friend of fear is hubris. When American Jewish organizations like the ADL and the American Jewish Committee claim that speech against Israel is a form of anti-Semitism, they put a nation on a pedestal that is dangerously high. In his new book, Being Jewish After the Destruction of Gaza, Jewish scholar and journalist Peter Beinart describes how this has not always been the case. Before Israel's land grabs following the 1967 Six-Day War, criticism of Israel was not seen as anti-Semitic. Judaism and anti-Semitism existed long before political Zionism and long before Israel was established. After the Six-Day War, people began calling Israel out as an oppressive state. A shift began. Suddenly, criticism of the Jewish nation was a fundamental attack on Jews everywhere, a false equivalency that assumes all Jews support and identify with the nation-state of Israel. By making criticism of Israel into a discriminatory act, Jewish American organizations like the ADL and AJC have become full of hubris, not only making sweeping claims about a people and their religious necessity to unquestioningly support a nation, but also their misguided belief that Israel can do no wrong. Peter Beinart goes on to argue that establishment Jewish American organizations have made a sort of false idol out of Israel. Idolatry, the gravest sin of all sins in the Jewish tradition, is understood as investing supreme value in things other than God. Beinart writes, "The Bible considers states very perilous things. They can easily become instruments of oppression. In Jewish tradition, states have no inherent value. States are not created in the image of God, human beings are. Human beings like the over 60,000 killed in Gaza and over 800 killed in the West Bank since October of 2023, not to mention the thousands currently facing imminent starvation." Beinart writes, "For establishment Jewish organizations that want to avoid looking closely at what Israel has done in Gaza, accusing Israel's criticism of accusing Israel's criticism of anti-Semitism is the single best way to avert one's eyes. Growing up culturally Jewish in a mostly Catholic town outside of Boston and attending UU congregations since I was small, I didn't have much in the way of a formal Jewish education. I could count on one hand how many times I had been to temple. I always accidentally ate pizza on day 2 of keeping kosher for Passover. And I never remembered to light the candles all 8 nights of Hanukkah. I also had little relationship to Israel, save for a family trip when I was young for my cousin's bar mitzvah. Instead, my Jewish education was provided by my mother and grandmother. Important things like Yiddish vocabulary, kepi and mensch and tuchis, and saying oi, 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 whenever my grandmother hugged me very tight. They taught me the resilience of our Ashkenazi ancestry who fled persecution in Europe before the Holocaust. But most importantly, they taught me that to be Jewish is to never stop asking questions. To be full of hubris is to believe oneself infallible, to believe that Israel is infallible. To conflate opposition to political Zionism with anti-Semitism is to conflate asking questions with anti-Semitism, and this conflation is antithetical to all I know to be Jewish. At every Passover Seder, we ask 4 questions. Moses himself questions God 5 times throughout the Torah. And Talmudic study and interpretation makes inquiry into a Jewish pastime. Asking questions is ancient, holy, and necessary work. Professor and economist Michael Hudson writes, if the prophets of ancient Israel, such as Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Malachi, and Amos were alive today, Benjamin Netanyahu would accuse them of anti-Semitism for daring to describe his government as a travesty of what the Mosaic covenant was all about. When facing hubris in our communities, we must turn instead to humility, finding shared dignity in vulnerability rather than seeking domination and certainty. Our final friend of fear is anger. I see anger in the Jewish American community when I'm called a self-hating Jew or denied my Jewish identity in its totality. I see anger in my community when defensiveness arises as soon as the word Palestine is spoken. But anger, too, can be transformed. In psychology circles, anger is often referred to as a secondary emotion, meaning there is usually another feeling behind anger motivating it, like sadness or grief. But do not mistake its status as secondary to indicate that anger is not powerful. Rage, a type of anger, can motivate righteous indignation when it is fueled by love rather than fear. In our reading today, legendary Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel is clearly speaking in righteous indignation. On that day in 1963, when he said those words, he was addressing the issue of American Jews turning away from the suffering of Jews in the Soviet Union who were facing oppression by the state. His tone is uncompromising. Jews must wake up to injustice. Religion, he believed, is the opposite of indifference. In this reading, Heschel continues the ancient tradition of Jewish leaders calling misguided Jews to task, just as the prophets of the Torah did before him. Nations, empires, and states are not gods. Susanna Heschel writes, "What I learned from my father is that the land itself is not holy, not to be worshipped, and not to die for. Rather, the land is a site for holiness to be created. When motivated by fear, anger burns fast and hot. In order to endure and seek lasting peace and safety for all, we must draw on something far more transcendent: love, the spirit of life, God, whatever it may be for you. But it cannot be fear, and it cannot be a nation state." Last year, my dear friend Binny taught me about Olam Haba, the world to come, and a story about how in the Jewish afterlife, everyone sits at a long table with enough food for all to enjoy. However, no one can bend their elbows, making feeding oneself impossible. In hell, the same is true. Unable to bend their arms, the people go hungry and the food rots. But in this heaven, in Olam Haba, we do not go hungry because we feed our neighbors with outstretched arms. To imagine Olam Haba feels so distant in our present moment as the genocide continues to escalate. How can we conceive of another world if the world we are in weaponizes anti-Semitism in order to silence those who demand justice? To know that another world is possible is harder and harder to keep in my grasp as I read the headlines, Gaza starvation reports, and Netanyahu's new plan to take total control of Gaza, undoubtedly resulting in thousands of more deaths. I ask myself, how could anyone justify this? How can we ever repair? And with these big questions, I start to feel fear and all its friends creep in. But instead of succumbing to fear, I remember the day I first met my friend Binny while taking action in Representative Catherine Clark's office in the DC Capitol building. In many ways, we were arrested that day for doing what I still believe Jews do best, for asking questions. How can you support this genocide? We asked a representative, when will you call for a lasting ceasefire and a just peace? Representative Clark refused to answer us on that day and has continued to turn away from these questions, like many American politicians. When we were loaded into police vehicles, hands cuffed behind our backs, Binny raised her voice loud to lead the 50 of us in song. Eventually, her glasses and KN95 mask began to slip off of her face. With her hands behind her, unable to bend her elbows, she could not help herself. As I watched her struggle to readjust, I offered up my own hands behind me to reposition her glasses and her mask. Although my hands were also bound, together we found a way to fix what was falling. In that small moment of aid, of feeding each other while our arms were locked at the elbows, we tasted a little bit of Olam Haba. Since the birth of political Zionism, there have always been Jews who have questioned its legitimacy and refused to see colonization as a solution. Jews who know that their Olam Haba exists in diaspora, not in occupation. Even when the answers for what is next escapes us, when there seems little that we can do to end the violence, I remember Abraham Joshua Heschel's words. I do not seek merely to unburden my heart. We will not fulfill our obligation by reciting lamentations. Our task is not to bang our heads against the wall. Our task is to find an answer to a crucial question. What is our generation's obligation? What is the task? Not to forget, never to be indifferent to other people's suffering. Beloveds, who do we fear? And who benefits from that fear? Politicians who build careers on fear, who propose solutions through mass deportation, travel bans, dehumanization of trans people, and white supremacy. Weapons contractors and corporations benefit, making billions off of our terror. We can't be tricked by them any longer. Fear may have many friends, but the mother of fear is grief, vulnerability, trauma, and uncertainty. We must tend to this mother by supporting one another in solidarity. May we remember this sacred charge, to be curious and humble in the face of fear, even if it means crying in public. Never again for anyone question the status quo and fight like hell for liberation, for Olam Haba for all people. May it be so, and amen. Please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, Peace, Salam, Shalom by Emma's Revolution, which will be led by Nate Berge of UU Mount Airy. True? Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nate Berge of the UU's Mount Airy. I use they, them pronouns. It's such a pleasure to be here with you I want to say thank you again, India, for that. We will be singing Peace, Salam, Shalom, and those are the only 3 words that you'll need to know. I'll sing through it once, and then as we sing through it, feel free to join us. You get comfortable, you're more than welcome. If it's comfortable to close your eyes, if it's however you want to engage with this song. Peace, salam, shalom. 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 Again. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Once more. Peace, salam, shalom.
As we extinguish the chalice, please join me once again in unison with the words by Naomi Shihab Nye that are printed in your order of service. When your hope shrinks, you might feel the hope of someone far away lifting you up. Hope is the thing. Hope was always the thing.
Beloveds, we know our task, not to forget, to never be indifferent to other people's suffering. Yes, anti-Semitism is alive and well, but anti-Semitism has nothing to do with the protests on college campuses. It has nothing to do with the sit-ins at state representatives' offices. It has nothing to do with the marches in Philadelphia, San Francisco, New York City, Berlin, Melbourne, Buenos Aires, Dublin, or Tel Aviv. A genocide is staring us in the face. Countless humanitarian agencies, genocide scholars, and Palestinians on the ground have confirmed what we should have known long ago. We cannot afford to be afraid. Never again is now. Please remain seated and enjoy our beautiful postlude to conclude the service.
That was a very unique service. I mean, I never been in a place that have these. Even back home, we don't have such a thing. So it was a really unique day for me. Thank you.